Okay, so thinking about a career as a wire harness assembler. More than just twisting some wires together, right?
It is really interesting how this field needs both technical skills and being super meticulous.
Like they're building the nervous system of a machine,
Yeah,
right?
you're not just putting pieces together. You got to make sure everything works perfectly.
Like a surgeon, but for electronics.
Exactly.
The RoleCatcher guide mentions all these tools like cable ties, conduit, sleeves, dot crimping. Crimping sounds kind of technical.
You usually start with the basics, but even crimping is a lot more than it seems.
Really?
It's not just squeezing a connector on. Different crimps have different uses, like making it weatherproof, or if it's high current, you need a super low resistance connection.
Wow, I had no idea. The guide also mentions soldering. What's the difference?
So both make electrical connections, but soldering's more like a tiny weld. You melt a metal alloy with heat, and it fuses the wires together.
So that's why you use it for like delicate stuff or high vibration environments,
Exactly.
like taping something versus welding it. Soldering's a heavy duty option.
Exactly.
And you use those techniques on everything, cars, airplanes, even medical devices.
Yeah, a lot of variety in this field. You're not stuck with one product or industry.
Speaking of variety, RoleCatcher's Guide talks about how the career path is set up with clear stages.
Yeah, they break it down by experience, entry-level, junior, and senior assembler, and each one comes with more responsibility and more complex work.
Okay, so you could start with basic harnesses and
Yeah.
work your way up to like running the assembly process for a whole product line.
Right, and those skills you learn, attention to detail, problem solving, hand-eye coordination, those are good for other fields too.
Like a secret weapon for your resume. RoleCatcher also mentions the downsides, though, like repetitive motions and it being physically demanding.
Definitely something to keep in mind.
What can you do about that?
Well, a lot of employers are focused on ergonomics now, so the tools and workstations are designed to minimize strain. Plus, as you get more experience, you might move into roles that are less physical.
So it's not just bending over a workbench forever.
Right.
That's good to hear. Okay, let's back up a bit. What does a typical day even look like for a wire harness assembler?
So picture this. You walk onto the production floor, right? You're surrounded by wires, tools, you hear the machines.
Okay.
You get your work order, but before you even touch anything, you have to look at the wiring diagrams.
So it's not just connecting point A to point B. There's a lot of planning involved.
Absolutely. Those diagrams are like blueprints. You need to figure out the right wire gauge, the color coding, the right connectors.
Like a high-stakes connect the dots.
That's a good way to put it.
What other tools are essential?
Besides the strippers and crimpers we talked about, you'll use cutting tools, soldering irons, and heat guns for heat shrink tubing.
Heat shrink tubing, those little tubes you get in electronics kits.
Yeah, those provide insulation and protect the wires.
So it's not just assembling, you're making sure it's all durable too.
Exactly. It's a mix of precision and being practical.
So is it usually solo work or is there a lot of teamwork?
It depends on the company and the project, but yeah, you'll be talking to other assemblers, supervisors, engineers, sometimes even clients.
So good communication is important.
Definitely.
Okay, so you've been working for a while, you want to move up. What are the pathways for that? We've touched on the career stages, but what about specializing?
Well, you could become a lead assembler, a supervisor, even move into quality assurance.
So there are leadership roles and more technical roles.
Exactly. And as you get more experience, you could specialize in an industry like automotive, aerospace.
So you could go from electric vehicles to medical equipment, all with the same base skill set.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we have to talk about job security. With automation and everything, some people might be worried about robots taking these jobs.
It's a valid concern, but skilled assemblers are still in high demand, and that's not going to change anytime soon.
So what you're saying is it's not about fearing the robots, it's about learning to work alongside them.
Exactly.
And that's something RoleCatcher emphasizes, right?
Right.
Not just finding a job, but continuous learning too.
Right.
What are some big misconceptions about this career path?
One is that it's boring and repetitive, with no room for creativity. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, it's not just mindlessly connecting wires. There's critical thinking involved.
And it can be artistic, too.
Really?
Yeah, when you create these intricate systems, there's a real sense of craftsmanship there.
Like a sculptor, but with wires.
Exactly. And as you get more experience, you might even get to contribute your own ideas.
So it's not just a job, it's a craft. This has been really insightful. But we're not done yet. Coming up after the break, we'll talk about the education you need and how platforms like RoleCatcher can help you land that job. Don't go anywhere. And we're back, diving deeper into the world of wire harness assemblers. We've talked about the skills, the tools, even how AI can help you get the job. But what's it actually like day to day? What's it really like to be a wire harness assembler?
Okay, so imagine this. You clock in, you walk onto the production floor, you smell solder, hear the machines.
Okay.
You got your work order, but before you even touch a wire, you're looking at these really detailed wiring diagrams.
So it's not just connecting point A to point B. There's a lot of planning involved.
Exactly. Those diagrams are like blueprints, and you need to figure out what gauge wire to use, the right color coding, the right connector.
It's like a high-stakes game of connect the dots, but with, like, actual consequences.
Right.
What other tools do you use all the time?
So besides the strippers and crimpers, you'll use cutting tools, soldering irons, heat guns for heat shrink tubing.
Heat shrink tubing. Those little tubes that come in those electronics repair kits?
Yeah, those. They insulate and protect the wires.
So you're not just assembling, you're also making sure it's all durable.
Exactly. It's about precision, but it's got to be practical too.
So is it usually solo work, or are you working on a team?
It really depends on the company and the specific project. You'll be talking to other assemblers, sharing tips, and you work together a lot on the bigger, more complex harnesses.
So you're not just, like, off in your own world.
Definitely not. Plus, you're talking to supervisors, engineers, even clients sometimes.
So yeah, being able to communicate well is really important.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you've been doing this a while, you want to move up. What does that look like? We talked about those career stages, but what about specializing?
Well, you could become a lead assembler, a supervisor. You could move into quality assurance.
So there's room to move up to leadership roles or more technical roles.
Right, and as you get more experience, you could specialize in a specific industry like automotive, aerospace.
So you could go from putting together wiring for electric vehicles to working on, like, medical equipment, all with the same basic skills.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Okay, we can't talk about career prospects without talking about job security. With automation and AI, are robots going to take these jobs?
It's a valid question, but skilled assemblers are still in high demand. That's not going to change anytime soon.
So what you're saying is it's not about being scared of the robots. It's about learning how to work with them.
Exactly.
And RoleCatcher really stresses that, right? It's not just about finding a job. It's about always learning and keeping your skills up to date.
Absolutely.
What are some things people get wrong about this kind of work?
One is that it's boring, repetitive,
Yeah.
that there's no room for creativity. That couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, it's not just mindlessly connecting wires. You got to think critically.
Yeah, and honestly, it can be kind of artistic.
Really?
When you're building these intricate systems, there's a real craftsmanship to it.
Like a sculptor, but with wires.
Exactly. And when you've been doing it a while, you might even get to bring your own ideas to the table.
So it's not just a job. It's a craft, and it's one with a bright future. This has been really eye-opening. But we're not done yet. Coming up, we'll look at what kind of education you need and how RoleCatcher can help you stand out in your job search. Stay with us. And we're back, folks, ready to dig into the final details about becoming a wire harness assembler.
We've talked about what they do, the career path, but how do you actually get started? What kind of education do you need?
Yeah, do you need like a 4-year degree, or are there other options?
Good news is you don't always need a bachelor's degree. A lot of employers are looking for practical skills, especially for entry level.
So experience can be more important than a degree.
Yeah, and if you're right out of high school or switching careers, there are training programs.
Where do you find those?
You can find them at vocational schools, community colleges, even some companies offer them.
So you can get hands-on training for exactly what you need to know.
And they often mix classroom stuff with actual paid work, so you're earning while you learn.
That's a great deal. What if you've already got experience, like with electronics assembly? Can that help you get into wire harness assembly?
Definitely. If you know the basics of electricity, soldering, safety procedures, employers love that.
So it's like a head start.
Exactly. And they'll often train you on the rest.
Okay, let's talk more about RoleCatcher. We've mentioned their guides, the AI stuff, but how does it actually help you land a job?
Think of RoleCatcher like your secret weapon. They don't just give you general advice, they give you the tools to really stand out.
Okay, I'm listening. What makes them different?
They know the industry inside and out. They've looked at tons of job postings, so they know exactly what employers want.
Like they've cracked the code?
Kinda, yeah. And their platform helps you use that knowledge. It's like having a personal career coach.
All right, how does it work practically?
So say you find a job posting that you like. You copy and paste the whole thing into RoleCatcher, and the AI gets to work.
Okay, what does the AI do?
It figures out what skills they want, the qualifications, even what kind of personality would fit, and then compares it to your resume.
And then tells you what you're missing.
More like it highlights what you should emphasize or maybe things you forgot to mention.
That would be so helpful. No more guessing what they want to see.
Exactly. And it's not just the resume, they help you write cover letters too.
So you're not just sending out a generic one.
Right. It's tailored to that specific job. And then there's the interview.
Ugh, the interview. The worst part, right?
They have this huge database of interview questions, and they give you tips on how to answer what they're really looking for.
It's like having a cheat sheet.
Kind of. They also do AI mock interviews.
Wait, what? With like a robot interviewer?
It's not that scary. You pick from common questions, and the AI asks them, gives you feedback in real time.
Wow. So you can practice without the pressure.
Exactly. The AI can point out if you're rambling or not giving enough detail.
That's actually really helpful.
And it's not just for this field. They have it for all kinds of jobs.
This is amazing. Okay, last thing, networking. How does RoleCatcher help with that?
So they have this tool where you put in your contacts, track who you've talked to, set reminders to follow up.
Like a CRM, but for your professional life.
Exactly. And get this, it can show you if any of your connections know someone at a company you're interested in.
No way. That's incredible.
It's a game changer for networking, and RoleCatcher has a free version to try it out.
This has been so informative. As we wrap up here, any final words of wisdom?
If you like working with your hands, you're detail-oriented, and you want a job where you're actually building something, this could be it.
It's not just about connecting wires, it's about connecting the world, really.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, RoleCatcher's there to help you along the way.
Absolutely. To everyone listening, whether you're just starting out or looking for a change, your skills are valuable, and with the right tools, you can achieve anything.
I completely agree.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Huge thank you to you, expert speaker, for your insights.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. We hope you learned something new. Until next time, keep exploring and keep reaching for those goals.